Peer review. It is the cornerstone upon which the production of knowledge and academia passing on information over time rests. It's very important, but it's a little bit of a mysterious process if you've not gone through it. In this video, I want to present an example of an experience that I had with the peer review process and give some tips and advice and some things to expect and how to handle things, so that if you are either just interested in what happens during a peer review, or you are sending something off for the first time to be peer reviewed and you're not entirely confident about what happens after you get a response back, well, then this video is for you. And what I'll be doing in this video is using, as I said, an example from my own research. I have a few publications out that have gone through the peer review process, and I myself am asked usually 3 or 4, sometimes more, depending on if we're getting close to the ref in the UK. 4 or 5 times a year I'm asked to do peer review. So I've done peer review for the journal Political Psychology, Political Studies, one that's very specialist to do with geography that's probably not relevant because of my other work. But I've worked with a couple different journals on the peer review process, both as an author and as a reviewer, and to shed some light on what happens, and more importantly, if you're not familiar with what to do once you receive a response to what you've put out, here's a first-hand example that led to publication. What I'm going to do is swap my screen over so that you'll be able to see the screenshots that I've prepared to talk about this. And the way that I'm going to discuss this topic is to speak to you, audience member, as if you were submitting something for peer review, because I think it's just easier if I address you as the author of somebody who's going to have something looked at consistently throughout. So let's go ahead and swap over. Okay, how to academic responding to peer review. This is all going to be based on correspondence and other things that happened around my publication with Dr. Carvalho, Edzia Carvalho, in Parliamentary Affairs. This is a journal based in the UK, and it's published by Oxford Journals in cooperation, or in partnership, I should say, with the Hansard Society. For those of you who know about published on behalf of the Hansard Society, you can see in the bottom sort of right-hand corner. And yeah, I'm just going to kind of give you the actual things that happened and how we responded and what our aims were. And I'll be pretty quick. This won't be an extensive going through point by point. I'm just going to give an overview of what the process was getting this article peer reviewed and published. We submitted it in April. And a lot of time, and most times, or all the time, you will have some kind of letter you'll write to the editorial board of that journal. And it's just a polite introduction letter, and it's there to give the editors an idea of, I think the best thing to do is what your contribution in this article will be. And in this case, we were able to be very succinct, so it was quite a short letter, but in making sure that you had that correspondence on the editorial level is important, although that generally isn't what is going to make or break you, but it's still important to do. So we send a letter to the editor explaining we're submitting our article and what we think it offers. And then at that point, if you're an author, you wait. And you could be waiting for 3 weeks or 3 months or 6 months. I've noticed that journals are getting actually better at the turnaround time, but I have heard of nightmare scenarios where people have had to wait, 9 months to hear back from a journal as to whether or not they've even decided to send the paper out to reviewers. Because not everything that gets sent to a journal gets reviewed. The first gatekeeper, as it were, is the editorial board and the editors. And if you are not successful, you basically would get what's called a desk reject. And that is the editor of that journal or the editorial board have decided that for whatever reason, maybe it's because it's too specialized, maybe it's because it's too general, maybe it's because it's not the right kind of journal fit for the article, but for whatever reason, they've decided to reject your article. That's one option that could happen when you send something off for peer review. Let's go to the opposite extreme. Let's go to, you get an email and it tells you that your piece has been accepted without changes. It's going to be published as it is. None of the, like everyone on the editorial board just said, this is brilliant. Actually, that doesn't really happen. But it also doesn't happen when it goes out for peer review. So the idea of getting an acceptance, now, I'm just going to stop this now.